Hey guys, tonight we travel back, way back, to a place where spoons didn't just stir soup, they stirred the heavens. You're standing on the stone floor of a Han Dynasty courtyard, somewhere around 100 BCE. The air is dry. Paper hasn't been invented yet. But time? Time is ticking. Not with gears or bells, but with an elegant spoon balanced on a smooth bronze plate. And somehow, this delicate tool knows where south is, and it's whispering the hour. Sounds relaxing, right? Except, you're a court official, and if you misreport the emperor's lucky hour by even a few seconds, you probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, post your location and the local time, just so we know what hour you're floating through. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You shuffle toward that quiet courtyard, feet brushing dust that's likely older than your entire country. A dish rests at its center, gleaming despite the fading light. And atop it sits a spoon, long-handled, perfectly balanced, and made from magnetic stone. Yes, stone that somehow pulls itself toward the Earth's poles. This isn't just a dish and a spoon, it's the world's first known directional device. And it's kind of beautiful. The Han Chinese called it a south-pointing spoon. In Chinese lore, south wasn't just a direction, it was power, warmth, and spiritual order. The emperor himself always faced south during ceremonies, so naturally, the first magnetic compass didn't point north like ours do. It pointed south. Because of course it did. You lean in, watching the spoon slowly twist until the handle aims south. It's not fast. It's not flashy. But in a world before clocks, GPS, or even working calendars, this was magic disguised as metallurgy. Historians still argue whether this spoon was ever actually used for navigation. Some say it was purely symbolic, a ritual object. Others insist it guided early travelers, especially across the foggy plains of northern China. Either way, this unassuming utensil opened the door to something much bigger, the idea that the heavens and the earth could be measured. Here's where it gets wonderfully weird. While modern folks measure time with quartz and silicon, Han thinkers believed you could track it through balance, orientation, and cosmic harmony. A spoon that points south wasn't just practical, it was philosophical. It showed you weren't lost, and in Han China, not being lost was kind of a moral duty. A little joke for you. Imagine trying to explain to a modern airport security guard that your carry-on spoon isn't cutlery, it's a timepiece. Good luck boarding that flight. Still, as twilight settles and you watch that spoon slowly align with the invisible pull of Earth's magnetic field, it begins to dawn on you. The people who built this weren't guessing. They were watching, measuring, waiting. And now, so are you. You kneel closer to the dish and your knees pop like old bamboo. The bronze plate is cool to the touch, but it hums with intention. You reach toward the spoon, not to use it, but just to feel how near science and sorcery come in this age. It's magnetite, after all, naturally magnetic iron ore. Mined, chiseled, polished, and coaxed into the shape of a ladle that always knows which way is south. And you? You barely remembered where you left your keys today. A servant in faded silk robes glides by, holding a scroll. No, a calendar. But not one marked with months or weekends. Instead, it's filled with heavenly stems and earthly branches, part of a 60-year cycle the Han used to tell time. Every day had a name. Every hour, an animal sign. It's elegant, poetic, and also a complete headache if you're trying to schedule a dentist appointment. Now, take this in. The spoon didn't measure hours like a clock. It helped align entire buildings. The south-pointing spoon was used in feng shui, aligning palaces and graves with the universe's chai. That's right. The emperor's burial mound, probably aligned with a glorified soup spoon, makes you want to revisit your own interior decorating choices. Historians still argue whether magnetism was fully understood at the time. Some say the Han just noticed the spoon always pointed the same way and ran with it. Others believe they grasped that the Earth itself was a giant magnet, and if that's true, they were centuries ahead of Europe. Now add in this detail. A parallel invention called the clepsydra, or water clock, was also at play. Picture this: ceramic bowls slowly filling with drips of water, each marking time as it overflowed into the next basin. If the spoon was the compass, the clepsydra was the ticking heartbeat of the court. And somewhere deep in the palace archives, there's a record of how many spoon alignments and water drips matched up with solar eclipses. That's bureaucracy mixed with cosmology, mixed with the kind of workplace micromanagement that would drive your office Slack channel insane. Meanwhile, your character, this silent figure you've become tonight, is now part of that system. You're a junior court astrologer, tasked with aligning one room in a new administrative annex. You spend hours repositioning the south-pointing spoon, adjusting the compass dish by millimeters, while trying not to sneeze on the lacquered scroll next to you. And just as the sun begins to set, your supervisor strolls in, glances at the direction of the spoon, and grunts. It's off by half a degree. Start over. You smile, because what else can you do? Then you mutter under your breath, "This dynasty really measures up." You wake up the next morning. Or well, you rise from your mat at what you think is morning, since the palace clocks are regulated by dripping bowls and spoon compasses, and frankly, time here is more of a polite suggestion than a hard fact. Today's assignment is even more baffling. You've been sent to observe the Grand Astrological Bureau, where robed officials gather to decide which spoon to believe when two disagree. Yes, that's a real thing. Because as it turns out, magnetite isn't always predictable. Sometimes it behaves strangely. Sometimes a south-pointing spoon points southwest, or directly into a wall. That's when you really hope nobody buried a haunted horse nearby. Historians still argue whether these anomalies were due to flaws in the spoon crafting, shifting magnetic fields, or just the emperor testing his staff's loyalty. Like, let's see who admits the spoon is confused and who fakes confidence. Spoiler, both types got demoted. Your journey takes you into a quiet chamber lined with, get this, dozens of bronze spoons, each mounted on circular plates. Some are tiny, like something you'd use to measure out tea leaves. Others are enormous, broad as your chest, clearly meant for public ceremonies, or possibly defeating soup-related monsters. You run your fingers over one of the oldest ones. It's duller than the others, but it hums with some leftover knowledge. A senior official notices you touching it and warns, "Careful, that one belonged to Emperor Wu himself. It once pointed out a traitor hiding in the treasury." You laugh, but he doesn't. He's either serious or very good at palace sarcasm. Then comes the fringe fact of the day. Some records mention spoons used not for directions, but as lie detectors. Supposedly, during criminal interrogations, suspects were asked to balance a spoon on their hand. If it wobbled, they were guilty. If it stayed still, they were innocent. Let's just say the margin for error was spoon-sized. You sit in the corner now, taking notes on a bamboo scroll that's been reused so many times. Your characters overlap with faded poetry. Outside, bells mark the passing of another watery hour. Inside, someone sneezes, and 5 astrologers turn toward the sound as if the spoon might pick a new south. It's not glamorous work, but it's precise. You're learning that in Han bureaucracy, precision is everything. Every timepiece, every compass, every calendar entry is a thread in the silk robe of the empire. Pull one loose, and someone somewhere, probably a mid-level official with a bad mustache, has a nervous breakdown. As you leave the chamber, your eyes catch a scroll pinned to the wall. It's a schedule of spoon realignments, water clock cleanings, and, yes, a lunar eclipse party, mandatory attendance. You sigh, thinking, even their sky watching has paperwork. And yet somehow, the madness makes sense. You feel it, this invisible structure holding the empire together. It's not just armies and taxes. It's also teaspoons and drips. It's soft, strange magic disguised as office policy. And tonight, when you close your eyes, you'll probably dream of spoons chasing you. Now that you've adjusted, sort of, to the spoon logic of the Han bureaucracy, it's time to dive deeper into the Empire's obsession with measuring time down to the tiniest slosh of water. Because nothing says imperial power like knowing exactly when to schedule a goat sacrifice or a poetry contest. You're ushered into a courtyard surrounded by gently hissing bamboo fountains and clusters of scholars scribbling furiously. In the center is something that looks like a giant bronze cauldron. But this, dear sleepy traveler, is no soup pot. It's a water clock, specifically a clepsydra, one of the Han Dynasty's pride and joy contraptions. Here's how it works. Water slowly drips from an upper vessel into a lower one, and as the water level rises, it lifts a float attached to a stick, which moves a gear, which turns a wheel, which rings a bell, every hour on the hour. And just in case that's too simple, they added bronze dragons that spit marbles into bowls to audibly mark the time. Because, of course they did. Your job today? Make sure the dragons spit at the right moment. You sit cross-legged beside the device, staring at a tiny spoon-shaped lever that triggers the marble release. If the water drips too fast, everything is ruined. If it drips too slow, somebody misses lunch. And in the Han court, missing lunch is practically treason. One official leans over and mutters, "We once lost an entire week due to a leaky float." You don't know if he's joking, but he definitely hasn't blinked in a while. Mainstream historical fact incoming. The Han Dynasty didn't invent the water clock, but they refined it like mad scientists. They introduced calibration sticks, overflow regulators, and even standardized the size of the dripping holes. Tiny holes, carefully bored, inspected daily by time monks. Okay, not their real title, but close enough. And now the quirky bit. Some records claim these water clocks were also used for matchmaking. If 2 suitors could recite poems that perfectly matched the time it took for a spoon to float from one side of the basin to the other, they were deemed soulmates, which sounds romantic, until you realize it's basically speed dating with hydraulics. Still, historians aren't unified on just how reliable these clocks were. Historians still argue whether the Han clepsydras kept consistent time year-round or needed seasonal adjustments. Some scrolls suggest they slowed in winter. Others insist they were flawless. One even claims the clocks could sense earthquakes. That one's probably wishful thinking. As the marble drops and pings into the bronze bowl, the sound echoes like a heartbeat through the courtyard. You realize time here isn't something passive. It's sculpted, controlled, tamed like a tiger in a velvet collar. You're handed a bamboo chart filled with neat columns of ticks and symbols. You're supposed to mark which times the spoon twitched. No pressure. Just imperial-level data entry based on dripping water and a floating spoon. And yet, you smile. It's kind of beautiful. Kind of absurd. Like everything in this world of scrolls, robes, and spoons. The next morning, you think it's morning. Though who can tell with all this regulated dripping? You're dragged, groggily, into what the Han officials call the Ministry of Timekeeping and Ritual Harmony. Sounds elegant. Looks like a warehouse full of obsessive men in robes poking at water vessels with chopsticks. You take your place beside a broad table lined with scrolls, bowls, bamboo tubes, and, yes, more spoons. This time, though, you're not watching them float. You're part of the calibration team. Think of it as a cross between a spa day and an engineering internship, only instead of face masks, you're adjusting the angle of spoon-shaped dials so they match celestial charts. This isn't just mechanical, it's cosmic. The Han believed their timekeeping had to mirror the heavens, because if the stars said it was the 10th hour and your spoon said the 11th, well, you were officially insulting the Emperor, and possibly the gods. Mainstream fact time. The Han Dynasty used a lunisolar calendar that combined lunar months with solar positions, all carefully tracked via devices like armillary spheres, sundials, and, yes, water clocks. Their court astrologers would cross-reference spoon readings with shadow lengths and star positions to keep things aligned. It's ancient astronomy meets kitchen utensils. You squint at a tiny bronze dragon whose tongue holds the hour marker. It's misaligned, just a millimeter off. Your supervisor, a man with eyebrows so long they curl upward like tiny scrolls, gasps. "That spoon is premature," he cries, scandalized. You quickly adjust it and try not to giggle. Here comes the quirky twist. Some Han records mention lucky spoons carved from sacred wood or rare jade. These were believed to never drift off schedule. Superstitious officials hoarded them like gamers chasing rare skins. One even buried his favorite spoon with full funeral rites. You hold a jade spoon now. Delicate. Impossibly smooth. Supposedly, it once belonged to a timekeeper who could predict eclipses. You're not sure about that, but it does feel weirdly accurate. Maybe it's psychological, maybe it's the faint whiff of camphor, or maybe it's ancient timekeeping magic. Who's to say? And yes, scholarly controversy. Historians still argue whether these calibration rituals were rooted in true astronomy or just imperial pageantry. Was it science or spectacle? Sincerity or showmanship? The answer, probably, is both. The Han wanted to be accurate and awe-inspiring. A little bit NASA, a little bit Broadway. You record the spoon's alignment on a silk scroll using ink made from soot and pine resin. As you write, you hear drums in the distance. Another temple ceremony is beginning, precisely on time. You helped make that happen. You, the spoon watcher. It's oddly satisfying. A bell rings. You're done for the day. A scholar pats you on the back and says, "Your dragon didn't hiccup once." You beam. You may be sleep-deprived, vaguely hallucinating, and surrounded by men debating whether bamboo warps in moonlight. But hey, you helped keep the cosmos in balance. With a spoon, you step outside into the faint dusk. Or is it dawn? Time in the ministry flows oddly, like the water it worships. Still, the breeze is real, and your head finally clears from all that incense and spoon scrutiny. You've earned a quiet moment, but the universe has other plans. You're summoned, of course, back into the grand hall. This time you're ushered toward a colossal structure nestled in the courtyard. Imagine a bronze turtle the size of a small cottage, its back carved with troughs and spouts, its mouth open wide in eternal surprise. This, you're told, is the pinnacle of Han timekeeping. The Clepsydra Tower. Fancy word, giant water clock. And who's in charge of it? None other than the Imperial Time Director, draped in a robe of indigo silk and armed with a pointer shaped like, what else? A spoon. He waves you forward with dramatic flair. Tonight, he announces, you will witness the spoon descent ceremony. The crowd gasps. You fake one too, just to fit in. Mainstream fact. Han engineers created elaborate water clocks with siphons, floats, gears, and sometimes even automaton figurines to strike bells or gongs on the hour. These weren't toys. They were critical to everything from court rituals to military maneuvers. Quirky tidbit. Some versions featured carved roosters that crowed at dawn by releasing a burst of air through hidden bamboo pipes. You stand next to one now. It wheezes faintly, like an asthmatic flute. You name it Beaky. Then it begins. Water flows from the turtle's shell, trickling through a sequence of descending spoons attached to rods. Each one tips when filled, triggering the next. It's a choreography of patience and precision, like watching ancient gears dance. But something's wrong. Spoon 7 sticks. A hush falls. You hold your breath. If it doesn't tip, the whole ceremony, and the Emperor's night schedule, is off by exactly 9 minutes. The horror. All eyes fall on you. You, the jade spoon calibrator. You, the one who once impressed the eyebrow scholar. You inch forward. Whisper to the spoon. Tap it. Nothing. You glance at Beaky, who offers no help. And then, gingerly, you blow on it. It tips. Water pours. The next spoon swings. The crowd exhales. You, dear listener, just rescued Imperial Time itself with a gentle puff. Not all heroes wear cloaks. Some wear soot-stained tunics and smell faintly of pine resin. Here's your final scholarly gray area. Historians still argue whether the elaborate public ceremonies around these clocks were accurate or theatrical. Some say the timekeepers intentionally exaggerated the drama to awe the crowd. Others believe the risk of error was genuinely terrifying. Either way, the spoon descent went off without a hitch tonight. Thanks to you. As the gongs sound and the last spoon empties into its basin, the Imperial Director bows. Time flows because you believe it does, he whispers. Deep, also mildly threatening. You're escorted away with a satchel containing dried plums, a scroll of appreciation, and, yes, a tiny bronze spoon. A keepsake from the age when empires bowed to water and spoons ruled the hours. You walk slowly through the dark, past flickering lanterns and rustling bamboo. Tomorrow you'll return to your ordinary life. But tonight, you help the stars keep time. And now, as the final spoon empties and the drums fade into memory, your body relaxes into the calm hush of night. Let your breathing slow. Feel the gentle trickle of that ancient water clock echo somewhere in your chest. One drop at a time, one quiet moment after another. You've wandered through incense-scented halls, tiptoed past startled scholars, and watched bronze dragons mark the hours, all while sleep tiptoed closer, just like it is now. The sky above ancient China softens into starlight. You imagine lying beneath it on smooth, worn stones, spoon clutched loosely in one hand, no responsibilities for once, just the comforting rhythm of water and time. Let that quiet rhythm carry you now, eyes heavier, muscles softer, thoughts slowing to a drift. Sleep is near. You're safe. You're timeless.